All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. James from Unchained Brands here. I am so excited today. We're going to start with, first and foremost, a quick explanation of our community build that we're doing. So our community build consists of content that goes on our website, and we're going to give you guys information on recovery, information on diet, information on wellness and meditation, and specifically also business and how to find different types of work, how to engage, how to network, a lot of employment related items. And out of that area, we're going to present to you guys on a frequent basis a set of videos that have content and written content with it that you can review afterwards. And today, specifically, excited to go into the employment area and look into a way in which we can all grow through our entire life, through our career. And today we're going to be here with Ian Gross from LinkedIn, who's one of the true business leaders in our community, in our business community. So whether it be Ian's background at IBM in the consulting space or doing a lot of the thought leadership that he does in the market today, we'll talk a little bit about Ian and introduce him to the world. So I'm excited as it can possibly be to have a friend of mine and a business leader, New York City, Ian Gross. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
It's going to be a fun little casual conversation with a lot of good data for everyone, I think, around how you guys can think through your career and network and build a better brand for yourself. And even at a most tactical level, find tools and ways that you can grow to find new work or work, whether you're looking for something new or trying to change a job situation. So, Ian, let's jump right in and do a little bit of, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, happy to, and thanks again for having me. So I'd say there's kind of three themes that I want to highlight that's important for my background and this conversation. One is just the point you mentioned around thought leadership. So I do like to publish. I like to get out there. I like to share advice with people. So I have been published in HBR and other channels. I lived in China for a bit, and that I published there as well. So that's important for my background. The other is one you mentioned around business leadership. So I've been working in the business community for a while at various consulting companies, got my MBA along the way in Chicago, and I traveled around the world as part of my work. Most recently, I'm at LinkedIn doing some strategic and operational work, which I'm happy to expand upon. And then most importantly, I'm someone who's deeply interested in networking and helping others. And so as I've gone through my career, I've taken it upon myself to meet a lot of interesting people like you and others who have really helped me figure out what I want to do and make sure that I'm in a place where I'm happy with what I do. So I'd say those three things really stitched together make me who I am today.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points in there just to kind of emphasize. So you went to Booth in Chicago, right?
Yes.
And I went to Northwestern, so we're arch enemies, man. Come on. So another interesting point I just wanted to kind of mention. You mentioned HBR, so HBR being Harvard Business Review, and what you've done there and the work that you've done, really remarkable. So you think about like what you've gone through in your career. You've been in markets that are completely different around the world, whether it be China or where you are now. You've written and worked with some of the brightest bulbs on the planet, whether it's HBR or the folks LinkedIn and IBM, and now really getting the time to sit back, and reflect on that. It's a remarkable journey that you've already had, and it's just getting started, right? So this is going to be great. I thank you so much for doing this.
Okay.
So the first area kind of to really look at was just the reality. I think at first it was like, well, don't talk about pandemic because it's so cliche after a while, but this isn't cliche. This is like real life. It's happening to everyone everywhere, right? Everyone's impacted. And some people are growing from this immensely. Some people are like suffering. And then there's a lot of people in the middle who are kind of like, I would say just not sure where this is going to go for them. So in a pandemic, if someone maybe lost their job or their main source of income, what thoughts would you give around how they can think about that and what they should be doing next around that type of topic.
Sure, and I would say it has been absolutely horrible. I've uh, people close to me have been very impacted. My uncle's a jazz musician who travels around and has not been able to perform for since February, when his gig was was canceled that night. My sister's a teacher in Baltimore. Obviously, I'm working from home, as are many others, so it's been incredibly disruptive and has really impacted the careers of many people I know. Uh, and I think it can be overwhelming to be in this situation and to be at home, to not know what to do or who to talk to, basically how to move forward. It can be paralyzing. Uh, and it has been for my, I'm happily married, my wife as well, in terms of how she thinks about things at times, and myself. But I also think it's important to start to get out of it through taking action, because you can overcome this. And I think that's a point I really want to emphasize and make. And I would say there's a couple steps you can take to capitalize on this, on what is a very difficult situation. One is, I would say, think about, if you have the time, think about what you liked and didn't like about your job. Your either previous jobs, really any professional experiences you've had. I'm sure there's things that popped out to you that really motivated you to go to work, and things that made you want to quit, or maybe it caused you to actually quit.
Yep.
And change your perception of what you want to do. And there is a pragmatic lens to this. You can't, not everyone can be an astronaut, not everyone can be a professional sports player. Certainly I'm not athletic enough to do that, even though I liked playing basketball growing up, but there's a limit. So it should be a bridge between what you're qualified to do, what your experience and skills and all that fun stuff adds up to, and what you actually can do. Because in some ways people are restricted, not in the ways they probably envision, but they're a little restricted. So from my perspective, I've done this as well, and where I am today, where I'm in a corporate role and doing kind of strategic and operational work, LinkedIn is part of a deliberate series of choices I made, and I've been fortunate enough to make, about just identifying what I like in my career and doubling down on that. I didn't like working with lawyers in a previous job I had. I didn't want to be a lawyer. Lawyers are fine, but I didn't want to work with them. I didn't want to read dense texts. And so I got out of the job, and I'm happy to report I'm 4 years lawyer free, which is great. And so that's something you can build on. The second is, as you think about this, it takes a village. I'm always of the mindset that, especially with these big decisions, you can't decide it on your own. Putting all that burden on yourself to individually figure it out, it can also make it overwhelming. A big decision like, what should I do next? It can, like I said, it can paralyze you. But you have friends, you have family, you have people who want to help, and I would leverage them. You have an existing contact base that you've spent your life developing, and people who you can trust. Talk to them. Some of the biggest career realizations I had, I had one recently where I realized I missed working with clients because I'm not client facing anymore. That's something I have to figure out and bake into my future career plans. That didn't come from me. That came from a mentor of mine who helped me identify that. So that's the second point. Anything to add?
No, I was just going to say, I think the network thing is interesting because we all sort of feel like should you tap the network? Are you over tapping that network? What's the right point? What do you even ask? Right. So like, I'll give you an example. Like, for instance, if someone's in the music business, or someone's in a business that's not core to like corporate or something, like, hey, I want to work at Google, or I want to work at, Merck Pharmaceutical, or I want to work. If you're like just working anywhere else and you use LinkedIn, you go to LinkedIn, you go, where do I start? And you look down, you go, wow, okay, who do I know? Like you said earlier about, your family and your network. So LinkedIn is the next thing we're going to talk about in a minute. So I'm not going to go there yet. But on the more macro level, friends and family, you might think to yourself, oh, I've tapped that. I've asked Uncle John and Aunt Stacy for whatever. Who do they know? What can I do? But I think just really opening yourself up to being vulnerable, this is my point, sorry for the long-winded, is being vulnerable into that opportunity to say, you know what, I'm interested, in being of service to something, even though you're the one who needs the help, right? So when you feel like you need the most help, you'd be surprised if you dig in the well and you give more, how it comes back to you, right? So I don't want to let that point go by where you said about your family and friends, and leveraging that network. I think it's just really critical.
And that's the best part, though. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not only your family and friends that want to help, but other people who you may reach out to. They do want to help. I've been blown away by the number of people who have helped me who never met me,
Right.
who've helped me figure this out. And so, our relationship came up because I reached out to you and I was unsure what to do and take the next step in my career. And you were willing to help me. We've stayed in touch and it's developed into a friendship where we're helping each other out. And it's much more than me just asking you about how you got to be where you are today. It's you helping me inform where I want to go. And that's happened to me numerous times in my career. The generosity of others, if you reach out and if you're vulnerable, if you ask them how they got to where they are, the struggles they faced, how much they're willing to tell you and how much they're willing to help.
Right.
So, and to be tactical, one of the things I've done. So, but before I even go there, one of the things I do want to call out is to know that people want to help. Anyone who's gotten anywhere probably realizes internally that they have a debt to others who've helped them. Most other people, if you're stuck professionally, want to pay it forward fundamentally. And so, but how do you reach those people? Which is a step many can get stuck on. You can the easy one is to go through existing family and friends, ask if those people have contacts, because maybe you think you want to do a side hustle where you're in the medical field or doing something medical related, and you want to get in there. You may have somebody in your friend's friend or family's connections who are there. Maybe that's one way to go about it. The other way is LinkedIn. It's free to sign up. There's various social platforms you can use. LinkedIn's a good one for networking and business, to sign up there, and you can message people or you can connect with people. Maybe you search for people who are at companies you're interested in or industries you're doing, and just message them.
Right.
Ask for help. I've asked for 30-minute conversations with probably hundreds of people over the course of my career since undergrad. Some of them were a waste of time, to be totally candid, but a lot of them were hugely valuable. And I would say at least 30% of the people, maybe more, responded to my messages, were willing to chat with me, and really help me.
Yeah.
And in terms of what to ask them, it can be very simple. You don't even have to, if you're not comfortable opening up, you can just ask them how they got to where they are today.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a powerful getting people to talk. Everyone they say, that's what they say. Everyone likes to talk about themselves. Just got to get them started. But it is interesting. I like to always ask people too about gaps. Like, there's, and I don't mean gaps like there's a gap in your employment, but there's always holes in everyone who's successful's life. It never all was linear, right? In fact, I was on a thing the other day, a webinar. Somebody was talking about a mosaic. Instead of a linear career path, it's a mosaic. Sorry, it's a mosaic. So then there's people all over the place, uh, jobs all over the place done, and people you get involved. So just to kind of touch upon that, um, the LinkedIn portion of this is an interesting tactical takeaway. I'd like to kind of see if we could touch on. Sorry, my phone is buzzing real time. So, where would you say the best places to look for jobs that you would be? Um, let's get a little bit more granular about it, because I think people now are going, well, maybe I did this type of work, and there's how many people in Broadway are out of work? You were saying your uncle's a musician. There's people who are just like out of work. Two things is interesting. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on. One is, okay, what should I be looking? How should I be looking? That's the tactical question. Then the other question is okay, once I get going, how do I now insulate myself for the future? Right? What should I be doing in addition to this? Because I think a lot of musicians, if we just use this as an example real quick, they'll say, okay, I'm a musician, I'm on tour, I have a studio I run, and I don't know, you sell t-shirts. But if the whole business goes where it went today, the studio isn't really going to feed you, and you already lost your main source, which is your road work. So it's almost like you have to pick something that's like, well, I'm going to go put some work into becoming a real estate investor or a real estate agent. Go get your license or something, right? So be curious to like talk about that after we talk about what's the useful tools and the tactics. If you could just maybe expand on the useful tools and tactics that we talked about a little bit earlier, that'd be valuable. And then we can go into the strategic stuff.
Absolutely, and the action part is ideally there's a call to action here, right?
Yeah.
And I would say there are a lot of tools that can put you in touch with people, that can give you information. Above and beyond the tools, though, the most important thing I would advocate is taking action, not staying stuck. The stuck part can be overwhelming. So there's Monster Dot. In terms of you could search for general information about what people do. And so for a musician who's stuck, like my uncle, right? Uh, there's lots of general information if you go on Google and personal stories, and some of that is available. People do in forums and articles and other sources on podcasts, just like this one, talk about how they figured out. It's more specific to each individual's background, what they want to do. I know that when my uncle was, when his tour gigs effectively stopped, he started to talk to people about what he should do next. He's a little older, and so he wasn't going to be performing for probably more than 10 years, he would say. He talked to other people. He realized he did like performing, but he needed a better way to get his music to market. So he talked to people who were in music distribution a little bit more to figure out if he could get, because his customers weren't, really engaging with this product. And he ended up really doubling down in a crazy way on CD distribution. And so now because his clients still use CDs, his customers still use CDs. So he's really working on that, and that became his side hustle to get his music to people. And he came through that through Google and then talking to people and whatnot. So that's one way. It all informed a vision he's acting on. It's going well.
Yeah.
A second one is just going to one of these social media platforms like LinkedIn and searching for people or companies. You can search by industry. Maybe you're interested in, once again, maybe medicine. Maybe you're interested in a different part of the music business, like my uncle was. And you can search for people and find them, and you can reach out. And I would encourage you to do so. Like I said, a lot of these people will return your emails or return your messages if you reach out. When I was unsure of what to do with my situation at my last job, this was at the end of 2019, I started just Googling companies I thought were interesting that were similar to mine, also in New York. I didn't want to leave New York. I started reaching out to people. Most of the companies I started with, I didn't end up at all, right? But I just started talking to people because I had a list of companies, and that was really helpful. And so I would say those two pieces, whether you kind of do some research on the side about other people's experiences or talk to individuals through LinkedIn, are both tactical steps, just first steps you can take on the journey.
No, that's the way to go, I think, is to actually, like you said, take the action, get involved, step right into it. I think one thing people may not even know is how to use LinkedIn, right? So we'll get to that at some point. I'd like to kind of maybe figure out how we can document that, tying that back to this, this script I'll post with it. So actually script out a simple way of how people get on LinkedIn. Some people might not even use it. Those who are like super users, I think what I found to be masterful, I was thinking about this last night, that you've done is you've put this little template together and you said, here, and you do a little research about the person. So, you know what, I know this is an interesting company that I want to work at, and I know that maybe this person you're sending it to is in a specific role. So you may add a couple sentences. You templatize it to say, hey, look, I'd just like to talk to you about this. Here's your value proposition and your experiences and why they may want to like you. I think in the context of where we're at today, most people, let's just say, in the example of the music business I mentioned earlier, but most people have a pretty cool story. They don't realize it. So you put your pretty cool little tidbits in your email, you target the company that you like, and you just show vulnerability to say, hey, I'd be interested to speak. Your hit rate is probably what, 10%, maybe less. But you know what? If you get one or two conversations, that's what happens. It goes from one or two conversations to 20 to 30 because people will bounce around and say, oh, talk to so and so, talk to so and so. The problem I think people find, Ian and myself, that I've done this, is you stop. You don't follow through. And when you do not follow through with anything in life, whether it's being a good parent or being a musician or being a doctor, you fail. And that's a hard word to hear, but it's just how. But the follow through with this type of activity is so critical. Uh, and to continue to push, Thomas Edison's old, you know, quote about 99% perspiration to get to success and 1%. I lost it anyway. But 1% inspiration or something like that. But
Yeah, that's the one I'm familiar with, or the
yeah,
Woody Allen. Yeah, there's various ones that's mostly about showing up.
but I've seen you do it well, and I admire it. And I think everyone at every level could use that type of model that you just laid out. Um,
And there's no to add. There's really no cost. And so the worst case is somebody doesn't respond.
right,
That's the worst case. But there's a little feedback, James, by the way.
right now.
Yeah. Um, okay, maybe it's better now. And so the worst case is that somebody doesn't respond. But a lot of people, you'd be surprised, like I said, the people that responded, as you have these conversations, the people who you talk to will open up to you and
Right,
their stories will come out. They've all been, to your point, right? They've all been through similar things and they want to help. You'd be amazed at the number of people who want to help, and it becomes more motivating. In the beginning, I know you can be on LinkedIn, and I've been there before, and other people have been there before. You're looking at all these profiles, everyone's story looks amazing, everybody
right,
looks like they're buttoned up. It's never the case.
right.
And once you get them on the phone, once you overcome that and you send that message, you send that email, you reach out, they'll tell you their story, and they'll be willing to help. And all of my jobs personally, all of my jobs for the past couple of rounds have come through people I reached out to who I didn't know before, who ended up internally referring me to a role,
Yep.
which speaks to the use of reaching out and using this "it takes a village" approach, but also the generosity of strangers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, especially now, right? You think about what we're all going through. The biggest thing I think, not to be too personal, but the biggest thing I got out of this time, this pandemic time, whatever, was stopping and actually paying attention to these little things. And I'll give you a quick example. Hikes. I always was interested in hiking, but I never did it. And now I started doing it. And I'm like, I'll stop and I'll stand on a branch and I'll snap it with my foot. And I'm like, hmm. I'll look up. I never looked up. I don't know. It sounds stupid. Look up at the trees. I'm like, huh, wow. You know. And then even as a musician, like when I play now, I pay attention to the way, if literally the way it feels on my hands, the way the strings feel against my hand, the way the pick hits the string. There's a different way I look at my kids. So what I'm trying to say is all these little nuances that happen in the course of a hard time, people are like trying to get to the light. Like we keep saying this, oh, you're gonna get out of this. We're gonna see the end of the light, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, I guess at some point, but there's a long road, and there has been a long road behind us. But every little step in this journey is like a valuable opportunity, 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 opportunity. So like trying to invest in that, and I think you've done a nice point here where you tied together all these little steps that people take to be successful in a hard time, or even in a good time, right? Maybe a lot of people, I think, actually benefited from this pandemic. Those little steps over time create success, right? So just because I'm conscious of time, it's been a great talk. Summarize me if you could. Just give me like a few parting thoughts. Doesn't have to be summary, just parting thoughts. And then what we'll do is we're going to post the script of what we talked about and some of the action the action plans and the action items that you guys can take away from this to actually implement tomorrow if you watch this and grow and get better and improve. So maybe Ian, if you could take us out with just a few parting thoughts based on the employment factor. Thank you for doing this for sure.
Sure, absolutely. I'd say four things. There's four things that I encourage people to take away from this today. One is that now affords you the time, if you're thinking about what to do next, to think deeply about what you like and what you didn't like in your previous jobs. Weave that into where you want to go next. Two is it takes a village. You don't, although you're doing some of the thinking by yourself, others, your friends and family, are happy to help. Three is that take action to expand that village. Reach out to people, or get them to talk to you and share with them. They'll share with you about how they got to where they are. And four is just through all of this process, keep in mind that people want to help. People you know, people you don't know. The generosity of strangers as you take action will, I think, will overwhelm you in a very positive way.
Awesome. That's incredible. And I think we all should be grateful for your time and grateful for everything you shared today. So, with that said, I'm going to say good night to you all, or good day, and thank you. And we'll be back next, I would say, in the next set of employment conversations. But keep in mind, we also are doing ones on recovery, meditation and wellness, diet and nutrition. So, becoming the better you all around. Here we go. Unchained Brands, James, it's my name. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks.